on, Mr. Mercer. You're keeping me from banging the gavel. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Wilson County Board of Education for March 18th, 2024 to order. Members of the board, what is your pleasure in regard to the agenda?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Powell?
I move that we accept the March the 18th, 2024 agenda for the Wilson County Board of Education.
Second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Powell, seconded by Mr. Mercer, that the agenda be approved for the March 18th, 2024 meeting of the Wilson County Board of Education. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Please let me stop for a moment to say that the meeting is being televised on Spectrum and Greenlight Channels 22 and live streamed through the Wilson County Schools YouTube channel. The public can also view the meeting by downloading the Wilson County Schools TV 22 app and through links on the Wilson County Schools Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, and the Wilson County Schools website. Now, if you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, to be followed by a moment of silence by Mr. Boykin.
I pledge
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the board, you have before you the minutes of the regular board meeting for February 19th, 2024. What is your pleasure?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Barnes?
I move that we approve the February 19, 2024 regular board meeting minutes.
Second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Barnes, seconded by Mrs. Boyette, that we approve the February 19th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Dr. Mills and Mr. Boykin, it's time for the good news presentation, if you would, please.
Board members, audience members, if I could ask Mr. Greg Woodard to come forward, please. Mr. Woodard, you do need to step up and face the audience, Greg. I'm sorry. Nice try. Tonight, we're excited to recognize Wilson County Schools Executive Director of Facility Services, Greg Woodard, for recently being named the North Carolina Public School Maintenance Association's Maintenance Director of the Year. Mr. Woodard is one of 115 directors from across the state, and he has been a vital member of our Facility Services Department for 19 years. He is a product of our school district and a member of the Hunt High School class of 1982. Standards were different then, weren't they? Yep. Mr. Woodard began his career with us in 2005 as the lead plumber. 5 years later, he transferred to the HVAC department and worked his way up to HVAC supervisor. In 2014, he was promoted to Assistant Director of Maintenance. In August 2024, he stepped into his current role as Executive Director of Facility Services. He is currently also the President of the North Carolina Public School Maintenance Association District 3 and has served as President for 3 different terms and Vice President for 2 terms. We are very proud of Mr. Woodard and applaud him on this well-deserved recognition. He does an incredible job for us, and we're glad to have him here as part of our Wilson County Schools team. Congratulations, Greg. Right, you gotta get pictures. Back.
He tried.
Nice. I know you're on call, but does not that fast.
And who's with him this evening?
Yes, I was. Mr. Wood would like
And I have my
recognize?
wife Valerie in the audience with me this afternoon.
All right, thank you.
There we go.
We probably should put her in the picture.
Yes.
She's the one that hears the phone ringing at night,
Yeah,
24 hours.
without a doubt, Valerie's earned part of that. And now for national board certification, we have two more people that we need to add to our list. Martha Levy and Amy Peel. Hey. Thank y'all for not running right away. I appreciate that. If you recall last month, board members, audience members, we recognized 6 educators who had renewed or earned their national board certification. Tonight, we're excited to recognize 2 more educators who renewed their certification, Ms. Levy and Ms. Peel. This is a really big, huge accomplishment. And national board certification, as you remember, is an advanced teaching credential that goes beyond the state licensure. Wilson County Schools currently has 54 educators with this certification, and North Carolina leads the way in the nation with 24,243 educators who are national board certified. That's nearly 24% of the state's teachers. That's a big deal. But we want to take a moment to share a little bit more about the certification that they received. Martha is a digital teaching and learning specialist in our technology department, and she maintained her existing certification for library media, early childhood through young adulthood. And Amy is a second grade teacher at Rock Ridge, and she maintained her existing certification for generalist early childhood. Congratulations, there's a lot of work goes into that. So once again, congratulations to these amazing educators, and we know this is a really long and arduous process. And we also want to thank the beginning teacher coordinator, Amy Evans, for guiding our folks through this process. And thank you for the sacrifices you made at home and at work to make this happen and keep that certification. Congratulations.
Got away?
Almost. And last on our list tonight is we'd like to recognize some folks from the Foundation YMCA for the Learn to Swim program. If Ms. Kathy Davis and Aaron Brown could come up.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first. Just to confirm.
Y'all have to share, okay? For our final recognition tonight, we want to thank the Foundation YMCA of Wilson for partnering with us to provide swim lessons to every second grader in our 13 elementary schools. That's almost 831 students. That's huge. With us tonight, representing the Foundation YMCA, are Chief Executive Officer Kathy Davis and Aquatics Director Aaron Brown. We can't thank the two of you enough for looking out for our kids and the opportunity this provides for our students. Swimming is an important life skill, especially for children, because drowning is the second leading cause of death for children aged 5 to 14. Through the Learn to Swim program, our second graders travel to the YMCA during the school day. The lessons are 35 minutes each day for 5 days, and it's really incredible to see the progress the students make in a week's time. The program teaches fundamental water safety and primary aquatic skills. The YMCA provides the pool, lifeguards, and volunteers, and also covers the cost of transportation, which we appreciate, as well as bathing suits and towels for students in need. The YMCA received grant funding from the Healthcare Foundation of Wilson Auxiliary to help offset costs. The Learn to Swim program is operated at no expense to our school district, but it certainly is a wonderful, wonderful benefit for our students. Volunteers are a key piece of this program's success. It takes at least 45 volunteers each week for 7 weeks to make this program possible. We appreciate all the volunteers who take time out of their schedules, one of which is our very own Associate Superintendent, Dr. Cheryl Wilson, who volunteered for a few days. Got in the pool till we're here. We also want to commend our second grade teachers for their flexibility and support, because they're giving up their class time and making that happen. And Ms. Davis shared that they've been amazing to work with. So our partnership with the YMCA for the Learn to Swim program began during the 17-18 school year, and the lessons continued in the following 2 school years, and then the pandemic occurred, and YMCA started construction on their new facility. So after a 3-year break, we're excited that swim lessons are back in full force. So we're more than beyond grateful to have the Foundation YMCA as such an incredible partner and provide such a wonderful life skill for our students. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Board members, that's all the good news for this month.
All right.
Good news.
We always welcome the good news. Now for the chairman's report. Congratulations to the Wilson Education Partnership for another successful fun-filled evening of trivia and spelling. This year was a Candyland trivia theme and spelling bee. We thank all of the volunteers, the sponsors, the teams, Hunt High School for helping things run smoothly. And though we were all winners, and the system is definitely a winner, because I think it was already reported in the press that it was a successful evening, having raised $20,000. Bragging rights this year go to the following. The overall winner was Wilson County team. Second place winner was Breen Law Team. The school winner was Beddingfield High School. The spirit winner was Beddingfield High School. The costume winner was Wells Elementary, whose team was dressed as the Lollipop Kids and Glinda the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz. And the table decorations winner went to Spate Middle School. If you have never attended the trivia spelling bee, it is an awesome, awesome occasion. And thank you, and a personal thank you to Pointer Spruill for having sponsored the Board of Ed team, and we were well represented. Some of you already got your, or may be getting your invoices for words that we misspelled. Thank you to all the teachers, administrators, and staff for all that you do on a daily basis for our students and for the system. We congratulate 14 young ladies at Watt who celebrated at the Watt Quinceanera Showcase. If you have not had a chance to see that, it was absolutely wonderful. Wilson County Schools, in partnership with the Wilson Committee for Persons with Disabilities, will be hosting the Worley Wellness Fair on April the 13th from 10 until 1 at the Worley Gig Park. You know, this year is going so fast. And in less than 2 weeks, we'll be out for our spring break. And we know that when we come back from spring break, we are in our final push, running towards the end of the academic year. So we hope that this time will allow for relaxation, fun, and rejuvenation as we prepare to finish this school year successfully. We hope that everyone will remain safe and healthy during that spring break time. Mrs. Horrison and I recently attended the COSBA, Consortium of the State School Boards Association Conference. We have shared and will be sharing information with the appropriate staff members, and each of you received an insulated bag from that event. And let me express condolences to the family of Alvin Hickman, who is a former school board member for our system, who recently passed, and condolences to his family. He worked tirelessly for the children of Wilson County while he served on the board. That concludes the chairman's report, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Mills for his report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since our last regular board meeting, we've had a few events. One was we celebrated School Social Work Week, and we also had Read Across America Week, where many of us were in classrooms reading with students. We also, just last week, had the elementary and middle school Battle of the Books competition. That is one of my favorite events, and congrats to the teams from Rock Ridge Elementary and Forest Hills for their victories. If you've never attended one of those, I would really highly suggest you work that in your schedule. We also always can use volunteers. Ms. Boyette volunteered and helped out, and that's always much appreciated. We've also opened the reassignment process, which continues through June 1st, and more information about that can be found on our district website under the news link. And it's not too late still to register your child for kindergarten. That process is ongoing through August. And again, if you'll select enrollment in the blue box on our website, step-by-step instructions will walk you through the process, or you can call the elementary school that your student will be attending for more information. I wanted to remind everyone about our upcoming educator job fair. If you're interested in teaching or working for Wilson County Schools, that job fair is Saturday, March 23rd, between 9 and noon at Darden. That's this coming Saturday. We're looking for instructional assistants, counselors, media coordinators, teachers. Reps from each of the schools will be in attendance, and we'll even have preliminary interviews on site. We just ask that folks who are interested in applying bring their most recent transcript. And you do not have to have an education degree to teach. If you have a 4-year degree, there's pathways that we can walk you through. So we'll have a staff member on site to talk more about that process. But again, that is Saturday, this Saturday, March 23rd, between 9 and noon at Darden Middle. This past week, we also were excited to welcome representatives with the Governor's Hometown Strong initiative to the Fike High School's Wash Center as part of their tour of Wilson County. They toured several places throughout the county, but came through the Wash Center, and were impressed with the health services we were able to provide our students through the WASH program and our healthcare partners with the Health Department and the Healthcare Foundation. And I wanted to thank the Health Department again for coming out and being a part of that, as well as the WASH staff and the staff at Fike for letting us come in and take over for that. I think the governor's staff were wanting to see how they could replicate that elsewhere across the state, and we're coming back to ask for more information, which we've all offered them the opportunity to do so. Finally, we're asking families for feedback about the student's school as they look to improve school practices, and so there's the online 23-24 parent survey on our website and social media sites. It's anonymous, and the deadline to complete it is March 31st. So I know some calls have gone out, other information, but that is still out there. And I did have information about spring break, but Dr. Fitch has covered that, but we're not keeping track of that on our calendars at all, so I'm really surprised that that's popped up. None of us had any idea it was next week. But I certainly hope everyone has a safe and relaxing one after we close things out. Next Thursday, that's it.
All right, thank you much. Now is the place on our agenda where the public has the opportunity to give input. Each person is granted 3 minutes for his or her presentation. This portion of the meeting is for the board to hear matters of interest from the public. However, obscene or vulgar statements, personal attacks, and statements reasonably perceived to be disruptive or imminently threatening to the orderly operation of the meeting shall not be permitted. We have 3 persons who have signed up to address the board this evening. The first is Christina Powers regarding the head football coach position at Fike High School.
I haven't spoken here before, so.
To the lectern, you will be timed. You will be told when your time is at end. We ask you to stop at that point, please.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Christina Powers. I have 2 daughters who attend Fike High School, and I'm here tonight to voice my support for Josh Jenkins as the head coach of the Fike varsity football team. For those of you here tonight who are unaware, Mr. Jenkins applied for the head coach position but was turned down. No details have been confirmed, but the community is hearing from multiple sources that the Fike administration and our central office opted to go with an outside candidate. It is also being said that this person will be the Fike athletic director as well as a PE teacher. It may seem odd that a mother of 2 daughters has an interest in the head coach position of the football team, but the fact is that Mr. Jenkins is much more to our family and many other Wilson County families than just a football coach. He is an excellent educator and coach who has earned the respect of his students and athletes. The man's dedication to Fike High School is obvious when you look at his career. He has been teaching at Fike for 16 years. He coached JV basketball during the first 6 years at Fike. He is on year number 9 as the head coach of the varsity softball team, and he coached JV football for 13 years and has been the varsity defensive coordinator for the past 2 seasons. While I have never personally spoken to Mr. Jenkins and do not know his intentions, we as a community would be remiss in thinking he would stay at Fike High School if not given the head coach position. He has dedicated his entire career to Fike High School, not to mention all the free time he has spent coaching our children. And if the Fike administration and central office believes this decision would not negatively affect the students at Fike High School, they are very wrong. The students want a math teacher who cares for them. The softball team wants a patient coach to help them learn and grow. And the football team wants a coach who has earned their respect. Josh Jenkins is all of those things for our kids, and we cannot chance having him leave. Lastly, I understand that all of you may be in a predicament tonight as the Fike administration and our central office may have entered into a contract with this outside candidate, and this person may have already stepped down from his current coaching position. While I sympathize with you and this candidate, I am asking you to ignore those feelings and focus on what is best for Josh Jenkins, the student of Fike High School, and the players of the football and softball teams. The Wilson County Schools' mission is pretty clear. Provide an educational environment which creates success for all students through the community working together. The community is speaking loud and clear. We want a math teacher, we want a familiar softball coach, and we want a head football coach who knows our team the best. We only want Josh Jenkins. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person to address the board is Dr. Charles Bayo regarding school policy questions.
Hello, folks.
Good evening.
At this time, I'm requesting a copy of the minutes from all the Board of Education subcommittee meetings, as well as those from all the closed sessions Board of Education meetings for the month of February. With regards to the health clinics, several questions. Are psychologists consulted to evaluate and treat a child with psychological issues? Is there a protocol for helping a child that states they were born into the wrong body? They were born into a body of the wrong sex, that is, that they are transgender. Can the clinics administer puberty blocking medications and/or sex hormones? Are parents informed when their child visits the clinic and informed for the reason of the visit? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last speaker is Lucy Russell Pittman regarding private school voucher and fiscal impact questions.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and for all that y'all do. I am speaking as a part of the Public School Strong Group here in Wilson County. As y'all know, we are frequent visitors here, and we just want strong public schools and policies that endorse that. My very Southern grandmother always told me not to talk about 3 things: politics, religion, and money. And she's not going to be happy because my comment tonight sort of includes all 3. I know we're approaching the fun of budget season in the county, and I want to better understand the impact of private school voucher expansion on the money that's going to our public schools and students here in Wilson County. As we all know, the legislature decided in their budget last year to allocate over $4 billion to opportunity scholarships over the next decade. Those scholarships are private school tuition subsidies where families can use our public taxpayer money to pay for private, sometimes religious academies. And the Office of State Budget and Management put out a report last year to try to measure the pending impact of voucher expansion on our precious public schools. OSBM said that Wilson County Schools is projected to potentially lose over $2.5 million of its annual budget. I wanted to get some clarity on what that potential impact would mean within Wilson County Schools and for the children that we serve. The superintendent over in Guilford County, Whitney Oakley, has said that private school voucher expansion may cause cuts in her district, including specialized science and math programs, arts or athletics, or even tutoring initiatives. We have such a range of incredible assets here in Wilson County, from our wash clinics to Watt, and I'm concerned that the private school vouchers may be detrimental to some of the gyms we have in our school system. We know that if there's less money that's given, something has to go. So I wanted to get clarity when you're faced with really hard decisions about where to allocate our taxpayer money for our schools. What do you think could be potentially cut? And are you, as a board, already having to make tough choices because of the state money going to private school vouchers? Thank you so much for helping us better understand the impact here at home. I will just end with this. We're going to keep trying our best to advocate alongside you for our public schools to get the funding that they need, that is constitutionally promised, and that our community's children really desperately need. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Members of the board, at this time, you are to direct as to how the persons who have addressed the board are addressed. Do you direct the chairman to respond to the concern on behalf of the board? Direct the administration to respond to the concern? Refer the matter to a board committee? Refer the matter to the administration? Or place the matter of concern on the agenda for a future meeting? What is your pleasure,
Madam Chair. Go ahead, Ms. Powell.
Well, I direct the administration to respond to the concerns of the public.
Maybe not that administrator, but I agree with Ms. Powell.
Okay. Is that the sentiment of the full board?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Boyette.
is it out of order for me to make the statement that in response to one of the concerns tonight about administering medications to students, that to just say straightforward that no child can be administered any medication or treated for anything without a parent's permission, as the WASH organization is set up, just like a doctor's office.
Well, you have just done that, and so we thank you. And the administration will still respond to the person addressing that question as a result of the directive of the entire board. Thank you. Next on the agenda are the administrative services reports, beginning with, the committee reports, beginning with the Administrative Services Committee. Mr. Mercer.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, let me interrupt you for 1 minute.
Yes, ma'am.
For those persons who are planning to leave the board, if you are ready to leave at this point, we thank you for coming, and so as to not be disruptive, we'll give you time to leave the room. Others of you are welcome to remain. All right, Mr. Mercer.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
This afternoon, Administrative Services Committee met, and we had one information item, 3 action items. We will begin with the information item, which is the 2024 local current expense and capital outlay budgets. Dr. Williams, Dr. Mills, would you briefly cover that, please?
Yes, sir. We've got Ms. Shannon Collins, who's available to be able to go over that. Mr. Mercer?
Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Collins.
This afternoon, we talked about the 2024-2025 budget. We talked about the factors that will impact our budget moving forward to next year, such as cost of living, benefit cost, hospitalization, retirement cost. We talked about the charter school impact. We talked about recurring expenses, and we also talked about supplemental and supplement pay increases. Just to recap kind of what we discussed earlier, our last year's budget was $24,544,758. This year's budget, we are asking for an increase in capital outlay funding, as well as expenses to cover those increasing cost of benefits and benefits such as hospitalization costs and retirement costs. Over the last several years, retirement costs have increased significantly. Last year, or for this current year, our health benefits cost is $7,557 per employee. The retirement rate is 25.02%. Some of the other things that we talked about this afternoon as well, it was, other than our salaries and benefits increasing, we talked about the other part of our budget that has the biggest impact on our budget is the charter schools. It is our largest expense at $4.2 million. Our maintenance costs are increasing. They were $3.3 million this year, are estimated to be $3.3 million this year. Our utility costs are at $3 million. Our technology costs are at 1.2, and our supply and material costs are at $482,000. Again, we talked about the charter school distribution. Each year, the charter schools, the cost is increasing every year. We currently have 19 charter schools. We have 1,881 students who attend charter schools. And again, we're on track this year to spend $4.2 million, or allocate $4.2 million to charter schools. Some of our other, we do have recurring expenses each year. Those, again, when the salary provides a state increase to employees, and we also have to increase that for our local employees as well. That increase in benefits is a huge factor. Our increase in our TA pay is a factor. And we also talked about a new salary schedule adjustments. Starting next year, the state will require us to go to a new salary schedule that we will have to adopt. So we will be presenting options for that in April. We also talked about supplemental funding for our employees earlier, and asked the board what they would like to do as far as supplemental increases go in the future. At this time, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Any comments or questions?
Please know that the information provided is just preliminary, and we do have work session scheduled, which may be folded into our next board meeting, but we will have more budget information coming forward at the April board meeting.
These are just things, preliminary things that will impact our budget moving forward.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none. Ms. Collins, if you would just step up. Our next item are budget amendments. And for 2023-24, and I think that includes state public school funds, federal expense fund, local special revenue funds, capital outlay expense fund, local current expense fund, through June the 30th of 2024. And would you give us a
Yes, sir.
kind of a brief review, please?
Try to, yes, sir. So for our state funding, we had increases in the advanced teaching roles. We had increases in our school safety grant fund, the third grade Read to Achieve. We had an increase in that. Principal and teacher bonuses, there was an increase in state funding for that as well. School connectivity, we had funds budgeted for stock arm cameras for our school buses, and also for textbook and digital resources, and that was out of state funding. Federal funding, we had increases in our Title I school improvement funds, our IDA preschool targeted assistance funds, and our IDA special needs targeted assistance funds. For capital outlay, we had funding increase in the replacement for a school bus.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, on behalf of Administrative Services Committee, I move that the full board approve the mentioned and explained budget amendments as recommended by administration.
It has been moved by Mr. Mercer, seconded by Mr. Boykin, that we approve the 2023-2024 budget amendments from the State Public School Fund, the Federal Expense Fund, Local Special Revenue Fund, Capital Outlay Expense Fund, and the Local Current Expense Fund. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Mr. Mercer?
Thank you, ma'am. Our second action item was lease options for activity buses. And just a few comments, and then Dr. Williams, I'd like to make, it's important to me and I think to the board that activity buses are dependable because we're sending students and groups out outside the county, a lot of times in the evenings and at night, and they need to be dependable. And we have, I think our oldest activity bus is a 1991 model, which makes it about 33 years old. And we have an opportunity here, I think, to upgrade to the point where our oldest bus would be we'd have one 2007 and better. So if you would kind of review the thought behind this lease to buy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mercer. So in regards to the lease purchase option, we have been presented with an opportunity to be able to lease purchase 9 buses. We also had a discussion about 5 buses as opposed to 9 buses. In this lease purchase, the first payment on the lease purchase would be due 365 days from delivery of the buses. The benefits to the lease purchase option allows for us to get all of the buses at one time. We have been purchasing with our capital outlay money 1 or 2 buses a year to be able to upgrade the fleet of activity buses that we have in our school system. This would give us the opportunity to be able to get all of the buses at one time, to be able to take those buses that you referred to, Mr. Mercer, the 91s, 97s, 98s, everything up to just one 2007 bus would be able to be taken out of the schools and out of the activity bus fleet. Some of the points that we discussed in regards to the lease option is specifically with a 9 activity bus lease option. Because the buses being newer, we had the opportunity to be able to save money on the estimated fuel cost over 5 years, as well as a service agreement for 5 years with the lease option. And those, subtracting out the amount for any interest over the lease purchase for a 9-activity bus lease option, would give us a 5-year savings of $181,082.99 over the course of 5 years. And that is, of course, estimating a 5% annual increase on the cost of buses each year, which is most likely very conservative. Same thing was the discussion that we had with the 5-activity bus lease option. And in that particular option with 5 activity buses, the savings for a 5-year period on the warranty for service and parts is $100,000, and the estimated fuel savings is $62,475 over 5 years. That netted with the lease, with the interest and the purchase option, would give us a total estimated savings over a 5-year period of $122,945.05. Our recommendation to the board was to seek the 9-activity bus lease option. The benefits to this 9-activity bus lease option is, as we've discussed, it allows us to replace a higher number of our older buses in the fleet at one time, because the 9 buses will be delivered at one time. We would get all of them as opposed to yearly. We'd have them all at one time. It provides the greatest cost savings over 5 years, and it also allows us as a district to not have to revisit our activity bus rotation plan for some time, several years, before we'd have to come back and revisit that. One of the items that we also discussed was if the board directs us to do so in moving forward with pursuing the 9-activity bus lease, that I will be bringing back to the board a resolution by general statute if we are entering into a multi-lease to purchase option, that we do have to have a resolution between the Board of Education and the Board of Commissioners. So I would bring that back in addition to a lease option agreement.
Any questions or comments?
I have one comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to commend Wilson County Schools for keeping a 1991 bus up and running for 33 years. That's commendable. That's great. That's all.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
I want to say thank you for whoever, when it did all this research, because whenever Dr. Mills came, one of the most prominent needs was activity buses, and as he has done every year, bought one, but I'm sitting here looking, and we've got the 33-year-old one, but we have 26 of our, we have buses that are 26 years old, and they don't use yellow buses after 20 years. And here we have all of those that the middle schools are using that are 26 years old. We need some activity buses, and this looks very, I like the pros. In other words, it's not costing us but a tiny bit more money. We get the warranty, we get the service. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
It looks like a very good way to accomplish what we need to do.
And we get the safety. That's important to me.
I agree. I'm glad all of our buses will be from this century.
Instead of grandfather days.
Any other comments or questions? Now, if I understand it correctly, this is not a vote to buy the buses. This is a vote to begin the process to get a resolution and to work towards an agreement with the truck, Daimler Truck.
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, with that understood, Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
on behalf of the Administrative Services Committee, I move the full board approve administration to pursue the preparations to create and get a resolution approved and an agreement with Daimler Truck Financial to have a lease buy agreement for 9 buses.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Mercer, seconded by both Mrs. Powell and Mr. Breen, that the full board approve the lease option for activity buses, allowing the administration to move forward with the necessary steps to prepare us to take action on a lease option, lease purchase option. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Mr. Mercer?
Yes, ma'am. Our third and final action item is in regards to the naming of Fike High School Athletic Complex. And this is the second reading, and we covered quite a bit of material and information regarding Mr. Tillman and all that he had done for the county. And I am excited to be a part of this, and not necessarily a big part, because the ideas and the pushes come from outside, and we have a number of those people with us this evening. And with the people here in support of that, please stand. This includes family and fellow coaches and employees and so forth. Thank you very much for being in support of this and helping it happen, I hope. Now, at the last meeting, everyone spoke favorably, had many good things to say, and I consider it an honor to be part of this. So at this point, does anyone else choose to speak? Okay, and hearing none, on behalf of Administrative Services Committee and many others, I move that the full board approve the naming of the Fike High School Athletic Complex, the Jimmy Tillman Athletic Complex at Fike High School.
Second.
Well, it has been moved. Excuse me. Hold on just a minute. It has been moved and properly seconded by, it seems like, everybody on the board, that the full board take action to name the Fike High School Athletic Complex, the Jimmy Tillman Athletic Complex. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. So it is written, so it shall be done.
Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Mercer, I will turn the meeting over to you in just a moment for the action items. You're welcome. We'll wait for the exit. He didn't have a son.
What a country.
All right, the Instructional Services Committee met this afternoon, and we had two informational items, and we had 9 action items. The 2 information items, first, there was a contract requiring board notification. As you know, the superintendent is free to enter into contracts under $30,000 threshold and has to report back to the board of any contracts over $90,000 that he has approved. We had 4 contracts come before us, all under the threshold. An Atomage for the amount of $79,465, which is a program for a clinical table for our CTE program in animal science and health science and child development pathways at Hunt. We had a contract for Paxton Patterson in the amount of $39,655 for a career exploration lab for Daniels, a contract for Paxton Patterson for career discovery lab for all 5th grades in the amount of $35,785, and a contract with Public Impact in the amount of $47,404 for professional learning and implementation for this spring semester, which is a part of our opportunity culture that we have been engaged in over the last year, 2 years? 3 years, over the last 3 years. So you heard the discussion on those components that were to be presented. Are there any questions in regard to those 4 contracts, please? Hearing none. The second informational item is a revised policy 6316, which is on a first read, so it will come back to us at next month's meeting. We did have discussion about that particular revision. Comments were made and questions were asked, and those questions will be, responses will be folded into the revision or the modifications that will occur before it comes back to us as a second read. Was there any discussion? And since all the board members were there at the time of the committee meeting, and they are familiar, it gives a pathway for those teachers, those teacher assistants who also drive bus but are currently engaged in moving forward to become teachers, to allow them some flex in terms of their having to drive buses. Any questions? Mr. Vice Chair, with that ending the information items, I will turn the meeting over to you so that I can do the motions for those action items.
Yes, ma'am.
Under action items, we had 1 contract requiring board approval. Since it is over the threshold of the $90,000, it is brought to us for action. This contract is with Instructure for $136,176.77. It provides for mastery view predictive assessments for test bank items, Desmos, which is a math program, tools, and a Master Connect subscription. It is a renewal of contract that we currently have. On the recommendation of the the Instructional Services Committee, Mr. Vice Chair, I move on behalf of the committee that we approve the Instructure contract in the amount of $136,176.77.
Second.
It's been moved properly seconded that, on the recommendation of administration, the full board approve the contract of $136,176.77.
No, sir,
$136,176.77 with Instructure for the Mastery View predictive assessments, item bank, Desmos tools, and Master Connect subscription. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Madam Chair.
Thank you. There were 8 revisions of policies. Those policies being 4440/7310, staff-student relations, 4110, immunization and health requirements for school admission, 6220, operation of school nutrition services, 7100, recruitment and selection of personnel, 7130, licensure, 7510, leave, 7520, family and medical leave, and 7730, employee conflict of interest. These were all for second reads. At the request of the Instructional Services Committee, Mr. Vice Chair, they asked that all these policies be acted upon as a group, as they felt that any revisions that were asked for at the last month's reading were taken care of. And so I move that all of the stated policies be revised as requested by the committee.
Second.
It's been moved properly seconded that the revised policies 40/7310 staff-student relations, 4110 immunization and health requirements for school admission, 6220 operation of school nutrition services, 7100 recruitment and selection of personnel, 7130 licensure, 7510 leave, 7520 family and medical leave, and 7730 employee conflict of interest be approved as a second reading. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. It carries unanimously. Madam Chair, I'm passing it back to you.
Thank you, sir. Members of the board, you know that we revise our board meeting calendar as necessary. There have been some requests made. We typically meet on the third Monday of the month. We do know that for the months of November, December, and January, our board meetings usually move from that third Monday in accordance with federal holiday, state holiday, the scheduling of our annual conference. This year, there are a couple of other requests for a change in the daily, the monthly usual meeting calendar date that the administration is asking for. You have a total 2024-2025 board meeting outline provided for you, and would like to know what is your pleasure in regard to the revision of our monthly meeting calendar for the next school year, as provided by the administration.
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Barnes.
I move that we approve the 2024-2025 Board of Education's meetings as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Barnes, seconded by Mrs. Boyette and Mrs. Powell, that the board approve the 2024-2025 Board of Education meetings calendar as presented by the administration. Are there any questions, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Mrs. Barnes?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Wilson County Board of Education go into closed session to consider confidential personnel matters as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A1 and 6 and 115C-319 through 321, to consider confidential student matters as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A1 and North Carolina General Statutes 115C-402 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act 20 U.S.C. 1232G, and to consult with the Board of Education attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A3.
It has been moved by Mrs. Barnes, seconded by Mr. Breen, that the Wilson County Board of Education go into closed session to consider confidential personnel matters as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A1 and 6, and 115C-319 through 321. To consider confidential student matters as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A1 and North Carolina General Statutes 115C-402 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act 20, United States Code 1232G, and to consult with the Board of Education attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A3. Are there any questions? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned to closed session.